In the world of One Punch Man, Saitama is the pinnacle of strength. This guy has bathed in lava. He survived and fought in the vacuum of space. He distorted reality on his first try, and of course, can kill pretty much anything in one punch. But the thing is, most people have no idea. In fact, most characters assume he's pretty weak at first glance. But these days, more people than ever know about his unbelievable power, and all their reactions have been priceless. First up, we've got Genos. 2 months before the end of the Monster Association arc, Genos was the first person to realize how powerful Saitama is. Fighting against Mosquito Girl, Genos released a massive 500-meter wave of destruction that overtook skyscrapers and knocked cars aside. He was afraid that Saitama may have ended up as a casualty, but was surprised to see that only his clothes were destroyed. After her transformation, Genos' only hope of defeating Mosquito Girl was to blow himself up, sacrificing his own life. But before he could, the bald streaker slapped his enemy into the stratosphere. Genos wanted to know Saitama's name and begged to become his disciple. After that, the very first question Genos asked his new master was about his baldness. He wanted to know more about the skin-colored armor on Saitama's head. He was so impressed that he even assumed that Saitama could fly. But have you ever wondered how I'm able to keep track of all this anime and manga greatness and continue to create videos like this one? Well, it's because I'm awesome, but it's also thanks to today's sponsor, Opera. The new browser from the Opera team has been overhauled to make it way more useful in daily life. The Tab Island feature is perfect for keeping your browser organized based on content. Let's say you want to keep a few different Crunchyroll tabs open so you can work through your watch list. That's not going to clutter up your screen. Opera turns them into an island. You can shrink them all and then expand the group later when you've got time to chill out and catch up on the season's greatest hits. It's amazing to not be stuck going through dozens of tabs trying to work out where you left your stuff. Even better, there's Aria. It's a leading generative AI service, free to use and built right into Opera. Say you're curious about an enemy Luffy fought in the East Blue, but can't remember their name, and don't want to search up a wiki arc by arc. Aria can explore the topic, pulling up a list of pirates in the East Blue and helping you work out who you're thinking of. Opera's new user interface has been reworked with a modular design, changing smoothly as you add or remove extensions to the sidebar. To make sure the browser doesn't stutter, the dev team separated out the active elements of the browser into their own compositor thread. Even if you're doing something complicated, you won't be left staring at a frozen screen. Add on to that a free VPN, an ad blocker, integrated music and messaging functions, and it gives you a smooth competitive package that other browsers can't compete against. So give Opera a try today for free by downloading it with the link below. Once they made it to the House of Evolution, Genos was thrashed by Carnage Kabuto, but even the mutant was overwhelmed by Saitama's presence and demanded to know how the hero became so strong. Genos assumed that this was a major secret. He wondered if he should stop his master from revealing it in front of the enemy. But when Saitama described his daily routine of 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and a 10-kilometer run, Genos got really angry. He was sure it was nonsense. This was the first and last time Genos ever disrespected Saitama. But it wasn't until they sparred after becoming pro heroes that Genos realized how ridiculous his master's strength is. He fought with everything he had to force Saitama to fight seriously. He was sure that his master couldn't explain the source of his power, but hoped that their fight would give him some clues. But he made the mistake of telling Saitama not to hold back. When Saitama's fist approached Genos' face, all he saw ahead of him was death. After that, just the idea of coming close to his teacher's power was unfathomable. And Genos, of course, tells Dr. Kuseno all about his awe-inspiring master. Bang first met Saitama when Z City was about to be destroyed by a meteor. He, Genos, and Metal Knight all failed to stop it. He couldn't believe his eyes when the bald man saved the day with one good punch. Afterwards, Bang stuck around for another 3 days, waiting for a chance to observe the guy. He considered Saitama to perhaps be the strongest person he had ever met in his life. Everyone blamed Saitama for ruining Z City after the meteor bits crashed down. Bang knew the truth, but decided to keep it to himself since he didn't want to see Saitama end up being corrupted by the rotten hero industry. Snek was the first person Saitama fought after joining the Hero Association. He decided to teach Saitama a lesson with a bit of newbie crushing, but ended up being knocked out in only 2 seconds. He doesn't know how powerful Saitama really is, just that the bald man is above him in strength. Moomin Rider ended up learning about Saitama's strength after the hero saved him from the Deep Sea King. He, Genos, Speedo Sound Sonic, and Puri Puri Prisoner were all defeated by the Royal Fish. Saitama took a direct hit to the back of the head from the monster without flinching. Then he beat the water breather back to Bikini Bottom with one punch. Because of Saitama's bad reputation from the meteor thing, his win was immediately discredited. And to make his fellow heroes look better, Saitama pretended to be a greedy opportunist who was there to take credit for their hard work. He ended up getting a ton of hate mail over it. The Moomin Rider sent a letter thanking him. The biker later bought him some mozuku and a drink to celebrate his new friend's promotion to B class. And although they don't know it, Saitama and Moomin Rider actually went to the same school when they were kids. King's relationship with Saitama is a very unique one. After saving the world more times than any other hero, Saitama believed he was super famous like Superman or something. But that wasn't the case. A major reason for this was the fact that King ended up getting credit for many of them. King happened to be nearby when Saitama killed Vaccine Man and other very powerful monsters. King's feats and title as the strongest man on Earth were enough to make Saitama seek him out. He was hoping that there was someone else who could relate to being too strong. But when Saitama saw the guy pee himself in front of a huge bird monster, he knew that King wasn't telling the truth. After Saitama beat it with no trouble at all, King remembered the real first time they had met. Back when he looked a lot more frail, King was attacked by Octopus Claw Man, a disaster-level tiger monster. That's how he ended up getting the scars on his face. But before he knew it, Saitama had saved him. At the time, Saitama could still get hurt and had his hair, so King didn't recognize him immediately. But when he did, he immediately burst into tears. King expected to be exposed for his lies. But instead, Saitama suggested that King train to actually become strong. He also decided that he would swing back around to play video games sometimes, which now happens regularly. Glasses is one of my favorite entries on this list. We learn about his connection to Saitama from the One Punch Man special chapter, A New Wind Blows. We got a glimpse of it in the anime when he fought against Garo, but that was really quick and didn't do the story as much justice. Glasses is extremely similar to Saitama. His character pretty much boils down to, what if Saitama didn't somehow gain unfathomable power and wore glasses? Glasses wanted to become a hero, so he trained his body, and through sheer hard work, he managed to enter B class. But everyone knows that the Blizzard group dominates there, so like many others, Glasses joined them. He was the sort of guy who would worry about missing food sales, but didn't mind not being credited for his hero work. But one day, the Blizzard group encountered a disaster-level demon monster that literally blew them away. When Blizzard herself showed up, Glasses was sure that her above-average strength and natural superpowers would save them all. But she was beaten too, and Glasses ended up being the last man standing. Then, suddenly, Tatsumaki showed up. She roasted Glasses for being weak and defeated the monster in the blink of an eye before leaving with her younger sister. Tatsumaki's comment really pissed Glasses off. In his eyes, there was no way he'd be able to surpass someone born with such incredible power, no matter how hard he tries. That's when Saitama showed up. He saw on TV that there was a monster there, and as usual, he was late. But it turns out the fan monster was still alive, since its propeller needs to be destroyed for it to really die. When he saw Saitama approach the monster, Glasses begged the C-class hero to run away, since there was no way he'd be able to defeat it. He told the bald man that there is a limit to what average people can do. Saitama just wondered who decided that. Glasses kept yelling at him, but Saitama punched in the monster's direction since it was blowing cold air on them. It then hurtled through the sky before exploding. After hearing about Glasses' training, Saitama just told him that the problem is, he hasn't trained enough to become even stronger. He questioned if this was truly the limit of the guy's power, that instead of sitting around frustrated, he should just keep on moving forward. Glasses came up with a ton of excuses in his head as to why Saitama was so strong. Genetics, mutations, drugs. He even assumed that Saitama might be the son of a millionaire that grew up in the perfect environment and received special training. But when Saitama pulled out a grocery catalog and mentioned vegetables being on sale, Glasses realized the truth. From that day on, Glasses quit the Blizzard group and became a true hero. He completely dedicated himself to training harder and harder. He even wears a green version of Saitama's original blue tracksuit. The last time we saw Glasses was when he helped fight against Garo before he monsterized. And I love the description Murata gave him. Quote, "Nothing about him is noteworthy, yet his rank is steadily rising? You can expect much from him in the future." Fubuki learned about Saitama's strength after he entered B class, and she tried to recruit him by force. When she threatened him, he asked if she was afraid he'd take the #1 B class spot from her. He told her to relax since he'd just moved up to A class anyway. Fubuki was not a fan of his words or rejection, and told her goons to beat him to the point where he'd never be able to work as a hero again. To this, Saitama knocked her groupies away so fast that she didn't even have time to blink. But Fubuki was still ignorant and decided to take care of him herself. She channeled her Esper powers. Saitama wondered if her plan was to fight him with floating pebbles and sand. Hearing that, she promised to beat him half dead. She planned to tear his flesh apart and crack his bones with her cruel technique, but Saitama was unfazed. He told her that hysterical women aren't fit to be on top. He said she wouldn't survive the business since she didn't understand what being a hero really is about. He called her group stupid and called her a moron for looking down on heroes. Fubuki kept trying to fight him, afraid of losing her position, but nothing affected him. She even pulled out a box cutter to try and really kill him. But when Genos and Sonic's fight interrupted theirs, Saitama ended up saving her life. Fubuki was surprised to see an S-class hero there. She was even more shocked that Genos was apparently Saitama's subordinate. After watching Sonic fight, there was no doubt in Fubuki's mind that the ninja was definitely S-class level. But then she saw Saitama defeat him effortlessly. Thanks to that, she realized that Saitama was just way too strong. Even then, on account of her sister, she was no stranger to power that defies common sense. Regardless of how powerful Saitama may be, she was sure that there was no way he'd be anywhere close to Sweet Mask, Tatsumaki, King, or Blast. But when she saw King show up to Saitama's place only moments later, her mind was blown yet again. She couldn't fathom why such strong people were mysteriously drawn to him. Fubuki knows that Saitama is strong, but her perception of S-class heroes is so inflated that she can't imagine someone like Saitama being above them. Her sister Tatsumaki didn't take notice of Saitama until much later. Fubuki clearly took a page out of her sister's book because when Tatsumaki decided to destroy the Blizzard group, she planned to, quote, kill them just enough to where they won't quite die. But Saitama refused to let the mini Esper have her way. He held onto her arm and refused to let her go. She tried to force him, but to Saitama, her power wasn't too different from Fubuki's. This was clearly very weird to Tatsumaki. She continued to increase her power output, but couldn't understand why nothing was working. She figured that there must be a limit to how long he can endure it, and decided to keep the pressure on. But when that began distorting space around them and threatened to destroy the Hero Association's headquarters, Saitama brought Tatsumaki close to his body, closer than she'd ever been with anyone before. Then, he launched them both into the air, even after they crashed into the ground outside. Even after she flailed him back and forth, Saitama would not let her go, no matter how hard she tried to be released. She wondered if he was into her or something, but Saitama said that he just didn't want her to run away and destroy more homes, which really pissed Tatsumaki off since she still believed herself to be stronger than him. When he finally let her go, she had to admit that he's pretty good, something that Tatsumaki never really does. But now, she was beginning to have fun, because even if she increases her power output, she won't have to worry about him dying so easily. This went on for a while and caused a ton of damage. Eventually, Tatsumaki started feeling like Saitama was looking down on her, and she threatened to go all out against him. To that, he told her to go ahead and let loose. At first, she couldn't believe it. Then she got really excited and of course a bit pissed off. She did as he asked, but ended up getting too carried away with how much fun she was having and overexerted herself. She tried to end things quickly after that, but yet again, Saitama was effortlessly unharmed. Saitama could tell that the Esper was struggling to stand by then, but she used all the strength she had left to try and launch him away. But despite exerting enough force to launch the guy into space, the best she could do was lift him a few inches off the ground. Saitama hadn't thrown a single punch, yet Tatsumaki passed out from fatigue. Ultimately, Tatsumaki now respects Saitama almost as much as she respects Blast. She's willing to listen to his advice, and even plans on surprising him with another test when she feels like it. Forte is a headphones-wearing A-class hero that decided to give Saitama a hard time when he first moved to Hero Association headquarters. But after catching a glimpse of Saitama's battle against Tatsumaki, he completely changed his tune. He apologized as soon as he got the chance and decided to become Saitama's errand boy, offering him clothes and food. He also planned to take good care of Saitama's pets. Metal Knight knows about Saitama thanks to the hero ruining his reputation with the Hero Association. Dr. Beaufoy created several robots with adaptive disaster-level artificial intelligence that were tasked with protecting the Hero Association from threats. So when Saitama showed up with two monsters, they attacked. Saitama demolished the machines on every level. Then he blamed the destruction on a malfunction that caused them to suddenly explode. From there, the Hero Association regretted their agreement with the Doctor and began pulling their funding. But thanks to the footage the robots were able to gather before being destroyed, Metal Knight was able to see that Cape Baldy was responsible. Although he hacked into the Hero Association's records to learn more, they didn't seem to have much at all on the bald hero. Based on the videos, Metal Knight came to the conclusion that Saitama is probably as strong as an S-class hero, maybe even stronger. At the very least, he's decided to keep an eye on Saitama from now on. Armored Gorilla was a member of the House of Evolution's Elite Task Force. Their mission was to invite Saitama to their base since he was able to take down Mosquito Girl in a single hit. Even after being defeated by Genos, As the third strongest member of the organization, he was sure that the heroes would be crushed by the Beast King, their second strongest fighter. But when Saitama showed up with the king's eye dangling from his hand, Armored Gorilla switched up his behavior immediately and became very polite. Dr. Genus first learned about Saitama's strength after seeing footage of him beating Mosquito Girl in his birthday suit. In pursuit of human evolution, he wanted to get his hands on Saitama at any cost. He didn't even care if the hero was dead or alive, so long as he could obtain the body. Since his strongest minions were all beaten, he had to use the unstable and highly destructive Carnage Kabuto. Dr. Genus was absolutely terrified of his own creation, probably because the monster tended to kill dozens of the Doctor's clones until it decided to settle down. Carnage Kabuto tore an S-class level fighter like Genos apart like a piece of tissue paper. Yet simply being close to Saitama was enough to make it back off immediately. His every instinct was crying for him to run away. Like Genos and Carnage Kabuto, Dr. Genus heard about Saitama's training regimen that led to his unrivaled power. He couldn't believe that a simple human training could ever reach such incredible heights. When Carnage Kabuto entered his berserk mode, the Doctor was certain that nothing would be able to stop the rampaging monstrosity. But in just a single punch, Saitama annihilated it. And just like that, the Doctor decided to abandon artificial evolution altogether. Along with his two remaining creations, Armored Gorilla and Mosquito Girl, yeah, she miraculously survived, he opened up the House of Takoyaki, a small takoyaki shop in W City where he uses his research in regeneration to create infinite octopus tentacles. Funny enough, that very same experimentation allowed him to previously create Zombie Man, a mutant of his that escaped and ended up becoming a respectable S-class hero. After joining the Hero Association, Zombie Man decided to hunt down and eliminate his creator since his research was a threat to all of humanity. When he saw that his family now owned a takoyaki shop, he assumed it was just a cover. But his jaw dropped when he heard that the House of Evolution had been destroyed. But Zombie Man still didn't trust them. To avoid being killed, Dr. Genus explained that he quit being a supervillain after seeing Saitama's overwhelming power. He explained Saitama's workout routine, the fact that he had broken his limiter, and that because of this, he could not experience any fun fights. Oh, and that it made him go bald. For a while, Zombie Man still didn't totally believe Dr. Genus. But after learning about Saitama defeating Garo during the Monster Association raid, he was able to accept the truth. In fact, he's taking a break from hero work so that Dr. Genus will be able to help him remove his own limiter and gain power comparable to Saitama's. Black S also saw Saitama defeat Awakened Garo in a single punch. A little while after that, he saw Saitama casually lift the remains of a broken building. At this point, Black S was weaker than a puppy, so being spotted by the heroes would be an immediate death sentence. And Saitama was the last person he wanted to run into. But when he saw Saitama being nice to Rover and not kill the monster, he decided to gamble with his life. He bounced over to Saitama, pretending to be a monkey. Saitama told the creature not to follow him, but stopped resisting pretty quickly. Our bald hero first met Overgrown Rover while he was in the middle of monster cleanup underground. He didn't process that he was dealing with a monster at all, and just called it a big dog. He even offered the big dog a giant bone, hoping it would lead him to any noisy monsters in the area. But that didn't go so well. Rover attacked, and Saitama was not happy. Realizing that the mutt hadn't been properly trained, he decided to teach it how to sit with the help of his fist. This created a seismic event that absolutely everyone in the area was able to notice. Rover got knocked out, and when he woke up, he was totally afraid of Saitama and ran away. Fubuki, Bang, and Bomb all fought Rover together, but they couldn't hurt him at all, and were close to becoming chew toys. What ended up saving them was Bang telling the monster to sit. This triggered its memory of Saitama, and it suddenly became obedient and well-behaved. And now that he's become smaller, Saitama decided to adopt him. Fubuki bribes the monster dog with premium meat to help her group, but it always returns to its true master, Saitama. Nyan actually saw Saitama take Rover down and called the guy a monster. Believing it would be his only chance for a sneak attack, Nyan raked his claws against the back of Saitama's head. But all that managed to do was make Saitama even angrier. Nyan knew immediately that Saitama would absolutely kill him. He ran away as fast as he could, hoping that some other monster would handle the overpowered hero. But then again, he had no idea who'd be able to. So I guess he's one of the very few characters that would place Saitama above Monster King Orochi. Sweet Mask started paying attention to Saitama after an S-class hero like Genos spoke so highly of him during a hero meeting. He began to wonder if maybe Saitama is actually the ideal hero. He managed to get his hands on the security tapes of Saitama facing Metal Knight's robots and was surprised by what he saw from a new A-class hero. A hero idol group wanted his support for the start of their careers, but Sweet Mask refused. And that's because they all lacked beauty like Saitama's. The beauty of overwhelming power, that is. Sweet Mask saw Saitama dealing with Tatsumaki as the two heroes crashed through several skyscrapers. Soon after, Sweet Mask met with the Hero Association's top executives to talk about his plan to restore their lost credibility. He proposed that they prepare Saitama to become the perfect hero, a spiritual pillar for all heroes. He's even been expanding his connections in politics, government, and business, all for the sake of his Saitama project. Hammerhead was a B-class criminal and the leader of the Paradise Group. By using battlesuits they stole from the organization, the group promoted a communist agenda through acts of terror. At first, Saitama wasn't very interested, but when he learned that everyone in the group was bald and making bald people look bad, he decided to do something about it. When Hammerhead ran into Saitama, he assumed the hero wanted to join them. But when Saitama declined, the criminal immediately punched him in the face with a building-toppling fist. But that did absolutely nothing to Saitama. Once the hero started insulting the battlesuits they'd risked their lives to steal, Hammerhead's rage only increased. He decided to test the suit's full power. He flailed his arms towards the hero like a windmill, which reminded Saitama of how he used to fight when he was a little kid. This actually made him wonder if he and Hammerhead might actually be similar. With a simple slap to the chest, Saitama completely destroyed the battle suit. Recognizing the hero's power, Hammerhead vowed to turn over a new leaf. And sometime later, Hammerhead was spotted in a suit preparing for a job interview. Saitama met Speedo Sound Sonic shortly afterward since the ninja was looking for Hammerhead. He assumed Saitama was one of his goons and attacked. Saitama caught his blade and snapped it. He was actually shocked that Sonic didn't recognize him at all since he'd saved the world plenty of times. But Sonic was more interested in the fact that Saitama was able to see his attacks coming more than once. Sonic achieved incredible speeds, but Saitama remained unfazed. He went for a mean leg drop, but Saitama countered with a horribly placed fist. After that hit to his family jewels, Sonic could barely stand, but decided that Saitama was now his rival, who he would train hard to defeat. Since then, Sonic has harassed the bald hero many times, and has lost 14 fights in a row. The first time the S-Class hero Flashy Flash took notice of Saitama was during the Monster Association raid. He assumed that Saitama was some sort of humanoid monster, and decided to take it down with one swift attack. He aimed for the head, but was surprised to see that his target was able to dodge it. Saitama even closed the distance between them to voice his frustrations. Flashy Flash recognized the hero as Genos' sidekick. He couldn't believe that there was actually someone among the heroes who could match his movement speed. He desperately wanted to know if it was a fluke or not. The thought of the man being able to see through his movements was too much to bear. The second time, Saitama caught the shinobi sword. When Saitama considered the possibility of Flashy Flash being a monster, the ninja nearly wet himself and quickly corrected him. As they continued talking, it became clear to Flashy Flash that Saitama wasn't bothered by the idea of the Monster Association in the slightest. When Saitama mentioned living in such a monster-dense area, Flashy Flash figured the guy must always be in a constant battle state. He admitted that Saitama was on the right path towards success, but didn't believe the bald hero would be able to keep up against their enemies. Saitama didn't mind though, and told him to lead the way. So Flashy Flash ran quickly to try and get rid of the guy. And boy was he surprised when Saitama was able to follow along with a smile on his face. With that, Flashy Flash became certain that Saitama's speed was able to somewhat match his own. Later, the two sprung into action together and managed to slaughter two huge monsters at the same time. Flashy Flash was even more shocked to see Saitama's efficiency. Meanwhile, Saitama was impressed by Flashy Flash too. He even let the hero know that he's kinda fast. And when he saw Saitama blast straight through an entire tunnel's worth of monsters, Flashy Flash was even more amazed. By then, he was pretty damn impressed. After the fighting was all over, Flashy Flash believed that Saitama might be a diamond in the rough. He decided to have Saitama assist him in hunting down God, with plans of turning Cape Baldi into his disciple. He was sure that Saitama's athletic abilities were overflowing with potential, but that he was wasting that potential by lacking proper guidance. Saitama continued to reject him. Eventually, Flashy Flash demanded that the two of them fight so Saitama could learn his place and obey. The moment the match started, Flashy Flash's danger flared like crazy. He remembered that Saitama was able to read his moves and was said to have beaten Garo. So Flashy Flash decided to attack with all his strength from the very beginning. He unleashed technique after technique, But just before he was able to unleash his ultimate attack, Flash Fist, Saitama prepared a counterpunch of his own, one that Flashy Flash expected to immediately die from. Genos' sudden intervention saved him, but Flashy Flash was drenched in his own sweat. He didn't even have time to use one of his forbidden moves. With a nervous laugh, he mentioned how unfortunate it was that Saitama wasn't able to land a hit on him, along with the fact that he would be postponing their match since they had hero work to get to. To Flashy Flash, Saitama is the definition of potential, and he plans to turn Cape Baldi into a capable hero. Manako first met Saitama when he punched a hole through the wall of the bathroom she was using, but she completely ignored him when she saw the S-class hero he was with. She watched Saitama and Flashy Flash kill a bunch of monsters and soon realized that they were both way too strong. Phoenix Man was in the middle of coercing Child Emperor to join him, but was interrupted by an annoyed Saitama. Mind you, Saitama being there at all shouldn't have been possible. They were inside of a shared spiritual space, yet Saitama had no problem breaking his way in. He thought that they might be whispering about his baldness. Saitama scolded the costumed freak for preying on children, and Phoenix Man was terrified by the pressure he released. Phoenix Man instinctually knew that trying to fight Saitama would be a terrible idea. Suiru was excited to fight Saitama when he was disguised as Bang's disciple during the martial arts tournament. After seeing the guy one-shot the two-time reigning champion Bakuzan, Suiru was very impressed and decided to do the same to his next opponent. With a single kick, he took down the A-class hero, Snack. When Saitama and Suiru fought during the finals, the bald man didn't really try and was more focused on protecting his wig. Suiru claimed that he could tell from the look in his opponent's eyes that he wasn't after fame or prestige. All he wanted was something a bit more fun. The two of them ended up making a deal where Suiru would show him how scary martial arts can really be. Suiru's speed surged a lot more than before. He began going all out against Saitama, who despite all the attacks, didn't have a single scratch on him and was still more worried about his wig. But that all changed when the martial artist disrespected heroes. Saitama let his wig fall off and proceeded to finally move his fist towards his opponent. He stopped short when he remembered that he needs to hold back, but the air pressure alone was enough to tear apart Suiru's clothes. Saitama ended up getting disqualified over the whole wig thing, but Suiru was not done with him yet. He fought harder than ever before and tore the arena apart with each move. He punched a guy with enough power to destroy a truck, yet he couldn't even get a proper reaction. By this point, Saitama came to the conclusion that martial arts was all about moving around in a way that looks cool. He decided to try it by spinning in a circle, which made Suiru charge at him in frustration, only to be launched away by Saitama's backside. Despite winning based on technicality, Suiru could not help but wonder what would have happened if Saitama actually punched him. Later, after being stomped by monster Bakuzan, Suiru begged for a hero to come save him and the other martial artists. And the hero that showed up was Saitama. Suiru believed that no matter how strong the hero might be, he could not afford to keep taking hits from the monster. He begged the man to protect himself and dodge, but Saitama was busy trying to remember if he'd seen the monster somewhere before. Eventually, he gave up, ending the thing with one hit. From there, Saitama introduced himself as a professional hero. As grateful as he was, Suiru was relieved that the hero showed up after Goketsu left. He didn't think that even Saitama would be able to take the monster down. He urged Saitama to stay put since tons of strong monsters were on the loose. He suggested that the guy gather a bunch of heroes and get help from the police to set up traps if he wants to fight Goketsu. But he screamed when the bald man decided to go looking for a fight immediately. There was no doubt in Suiru's mind that Saitama would die. When Saitama didn't want to listen, Suiru grabbed onto his leg and refused to let him throw his life away. But Saitama continued. Suiru slammed his fist and cried over the impending death of a true hero. A series of loud sounds and seismic tremors followed. Then, hearing a single smack more devastating than all the rest, Suiru was sure that his savior was dead. But then, something huge began falling from the sky. The severed head of Goketsu landed right in front of the martial artist. When Saitama returned, Suiru asked him if he thought the monster was strong, but Saitama couldn't tell since it only took one punch, like all the rest. Suiru asked Saitama if he would be able to become a hero too, but Cape Baldi wasn't sure. But seeing as he wasn't always as strong as he is now, Saitama figured that if he could do it, anyone could. After confirming that Saitama is a hero that is too strong, Suiru only had one more question. Like Genos, he asked to become Saitama's disciple, and with a refined smile, Saitama immediately refused. After perfecting his fist, Gar was finally about to become the absolute evil he always dreamed of. With his power, there was nothing left for him to fear, but his intuition told him that he was missing something major, and that turned out to be Saitama. Garo proudly told Saitama about his evil plan, but the bald hero was not buying it. To him, Garo didn't even look like a monster. But before leaving, Saitama decided to express his frustration with his house getting blown up. Instead of fishing around for his stuff in the water, he honestly felt like destroying the whole planet instead. The pressure Saitama released with that statement shook Garo to his core. But he could not afford to back down, so he charged to attack. Reactively, Saitama countered and sent Garo flying. This ended up triggering Garo's memory of the previous time Saitama one-shot him. Garo tried to fight back, but continued to be pummeled. He finally recognized Saitama as his biggest obstacle and vowed to beat him. And that desire ended up warping him into even more of a monster. But even in this stronger form, Saitama dared the hero hunter to hit him. Garo punched the hero's face as hard as he could, but the results shocked him. Saitama hadn't taken any damage at all. Garo tried to attack again with a knee, but Saitama easily slapped him somewhere else. Even though he was monsterizing faster and faster, Garo didn't feel like he was catching up to Saitama at all. He quickly realized that Saitama totally lacks technique and has a ton of openings. The hero was simply outpacing his attacks with crazy reflexes and reaction time. Garo knew that Saitama's body was too tough, so he went after the hero's internal organs, which were impossible for a person to train. But much to his surprise, Saitama was totally fine. At a certain point, Saitama just started trolling the guy. The anger from that was enough to trigger yet another monster evolution. Garo attacked with all his power and slammed Saitama into the side of a volcano. Saitama didn't have a scratch on him, proving to Garo that his opponent was tougher than a mountain. Again, Garo further monsterized, becoming even stronger and sprouted another set of arms to make his martial arts even deadlier. But he began sweating when Saitama handled him with only a single hand of his own. Techniques, speed, power, creativity, attacks, there was nothing Garo could think of or do that would help him take Saitama down. To him, Saitama was like the embodiment of unfairness, but he still refused to give up. In return, Saitama delivered a punch that separated Garo from his monstrous exoskeleton. Afterwards, Garo was granted a bit of God's power and entered cosmic fear mode. Garo's new attacks were several times stronger, but the most they managed to do to Saitama was ruin his costume. Recognizing Saitama's strength, Garo decided to copy his moves with Saitama mode. When they began fighting on one of Jupiter's moons, Garo tried to teleport Saitama away with a technique he stole from Blast. But Saitama just kicked the dimensional rift away. When Garo tried to use one to land a hit, Saitama grabbed and moved the thing, landing a punch of his own instead. Saitama proceeded to pummel Garo while totally destroying the moon they were on. Garo was overwhelmed by the hero's strength and considered the man to be limitlessly strong. He tried to copy Saitama limitlessly, but even if he countered with comparable power, the next attack from Saitama would hit even harder. It was only a matter of time before one of Saitama's punches would kill him. At one point, Saitama caught Garo's punch without looking and began to sneeze. This serious sneeze was enough to ruin the oldest and largest planet in our solar system. That's when fear overwhelmed Garo. He did not believe that a creature like Saitama should be allowed to roam free on Earth. He tried to escape by teleporting back home and leaving Saitama in the vacuum of space. But when Saitama appeared behind him seconds later, the hero hunter began panicking. It turns out that the coldness of space gave Saitama a stomachache that caused a fart strong enough for him to catch up. Saitama was able to get Garo to feel bad about what he had done, but it was too late. Everyone was already dead. Garo ended up teaching Saitama his ultimate move because he believed the guy would make it even better. He was sure that if anyone could master the power of God without accepting God's offer, it would be Saitama. At this point, Garo doesn't remember much after he initially entered Saitama mode since the timeline was shifted. Blast also caught a glimpse of Saitama's power while he was fighting Garo. Their fight made Earth's magnetic and gravitational fields go crazy. They were creating spatial distortion that was tearing a hole through the dimensional seal. Blast tried to fight against Cosmic Garo, but by the time Saitama showed up, everyone, including Genos, was already dead. Blast recognized Saitama from a few minutes before, but told him not to come any closer. Seeing Saitama's power as he was about to clash fists with Garo, Blast feared that the entire planet would be shattered. He teleported them into space just ahead of collision. Blast's companions had to help him steer the destructive energy away from Earth. They all couldn't believe that a hero besides Blast would be able to hold his own against someone with so much of God's power. They wondered who he was, but because of the altered timeline, none of them remember any of this happening. Now, God's awareness of Saitama is a bit unclear, but at the very least, Saitama is referred to as the abominable fist that has turned against God by Sage Centipede. who was one of God's little minions. Zich also mentioned the fact that something on Earth is attracting God's attention and summoning him, and this is implied to be Saitama. God was also aware of Saitama's fight against Garo, considering he gave the hero hunter power to do so. But we don't know if God is able to remember much of that due to the timeline change. The list of characters that know about Saitama's true power only continues to grow. Drop a comment with who you think will learn the truth next. As always, I am Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.